All right, welcome into another Check the Mic draft special, and back by popular demand. Like, seriously, Rick, people heard you on the main Check the Mic show just last Wednesday, and they said, we need more Rick Spielman on the show. So here you are. Welcome.
Yeah, well, geez, I don't know what they need more of, but I can try to be a little bit entertaining and informative at the same time, which is like walking and chewing gum, which probably I'm not very good at, but we'll give it a shot today, Steve-O.
Let's see if we could pull it off. So you have been knee deep. How many players have you evaluated so far? You've been doing a lot on the draft class, haven't you?
Yeah, no, with my CBS podcast, we do draft shows Tuesdays and Thursdays with the first pick. So we do these quarterbacks almost on a weekly basis, and it's amazing how the order changes almost every week, because when you fall in love with one of these quarterbacks one week, then the next week they, as they say, shite down their leg in some of the tape that you watch. So it's been, I can honestly say I don't think any of them have been very consistent week in and week out. There's flashes of greatness, but there's also flashes of head scratching decisions that they make during some of these games. I think the one thing that's kind of exciting is the way that this schedule has came up. You're seeing the best against the best. We saw Georgia against Texas. We saw Ohio State against Oregon. Texas A&M versus LSU. So it's almost college has become, as it evolves into this powerful conference that may eventually just be one big giant conference or two conferences, but it's like NFL games almost week in and week out, where you don't have, or you're going to eliminate some of these, I would call, warm-up games before you get into the real part of the schedule. But I think from a fan side perspective, from an evaluator perspective, to see these head-to-head matchups versus number 2 and number 3 in the country, number 1, number 4 in the country, I think it's just awesome for college football.
Yeah, it's really been fun this year, and I think I usually start out asking about the state of the QB class. It feels like you've summed it up, right? It's like this moving parts every single week. How would you summarize the QB class? Like, or how many of these guys do you think end up going in the first round? Is it the uncertainty saying, is it a weak class because of the uncertainty, or it could be a strong class if a lot of these guys end up developing in the second half of the season?
I would say this, because at least at this point during the season and the inconsistencies each one has shown, as soon as I fall in love with one guy, or he's the first quarterback off the board, then it's horrible the next week. And so I would say that if I had the number 1 overall pick and I needed a quarterback this year, I would be very concerned. I guess that'd be a mild way to put it, at least at this point during the season.
All right, so we've been doing this with a few other evaluators, and you said you do it every week on your podcast. So, maybe repeating yourself a little bit here, but let's count down. As of right now, late October, heading into November, who's QB 5 for you at this very moment?
So right now, and only reason I put him at number 5 was a little bit by default, was I went with Mr. Ewers from Texas. If you watched him against Michigan, it was like, this guy is an automatic first-round pick, maybe one of the top 2 quarterbacks coming out in the draft. After that Michigan game, he gets hurt again, which is all of a sudden running through evaluators' minds, durability concerns. Remember 2 years ago, he played lights out against Alabama, and then he got hurt, and then it was over. Then he played lights out against Alabama at Alabama, and then he somehow dips after that performance. So he was rusty, I thought, coming back after he was injured. In fact, when I was watching Manning while looking at other tape, I thought Manning was actually better than him in some of the views that I saw. So then you throw on these last couple games. Oklahoma, I thought that he was not very consistent and had poor decision making. Then I watched Georgia, and he got benched. It was so bad. I felt sorry for the performance of both of those quarterbacks. You can throw Beck into that mix as well. I think, when he's in rhythm and he is on time and he has a pocket where he can throw from, I think he's an accurate quarterback. What I don't like about him is I think he guides the ball. He doesn't put touch with velocity. What I like to say, it's almost like he's aiming at times. He's not a great quarterback to buy a second chance outside the pocket. And when it's noisy in the pocket or he has pressure around his feet, then his accuracy falls off. And I think once he gets hit a couple of times, then he starts seeing the rush rather than keeping his eyes downfield. As the old scouting term goes, and I'm sure you heard about it, Steve, is he starts seeing ghosts. And I think this kid sees a lot of ghosts. And I know we're right around Halloween time, but he is in prime form on seeing ghosts and goblins when he's in a pocket and it gets a little noisy. So I worry about the inconsistency. I worry about some of his decision making. I worry about him not being able to buy a second chance. And I worry about him, how he handles pressure in a pocket. But when it's clean and when he's in rhythm on time, he's accurate. He makes a lot of great throws. But I honestly, at this point, do not see him as a first-round talent.
Wow, yeah, I'm with you on that Michigan game too, Rick. I mean, all the stuff that you're saying that he's struggling with, it felt like the Michigan game was pretty good, movement in the pocket and creating a second opportunity for one of those touchdowns and everything. But yeah, it's been very inconsistent for Ewers, and the injury concerns that you bring up, and then, you know, him coming back rusty, like you said, I mean, that's all tied to if you're investing in this guy and if he's going to get hurt, you know, that stuff does carry over from college to the NFL. So I understand where some of that angst might come in there.
Is there one season that he's played a full season without getting injured? I can't recall.
3 full seasons as starter right now, 3 for 3, getting injured. So yeah, not a great start in that regard. Who's number 4 for you right now, Rick?
Oh boy, he was number 1 and he dropped all the way down to number 4 is Carson Beck from Georgia. And I thought out of all the guys I've seen, at least early, that he had the most command in the pocket. I thought he was decisive with his decision making. I thought he was one of the better quarterbacks to get through his progressions, going from first to second to third. And then all of a sudden, he always took care of the football. And then I think over the last 3 or 4 games, he has like 6 or 7 interceptions, and he's making poor decisions. Like the one thing that I really like to look at was that when he struggled in that Kentucky game, if you remember in the first half, and then came back and played pretty well, I thought, in the second half of that game. How do they respond after they struggle in a game? And he responded very well against Mississippi State, but then he then he looked horrible against Texas. I thought in the first half in the Alabama game, again, national stage, top teams against each other, he played really well in the second half and brought him back. The one thing that I didn't know about him going into the season was his arm talent to throw deep balls down the field. And I think he has a very good touch. I think he throws the ball in position for the receivers to go up and make catches. He gives them an opportunity to win in the contested situations down the field. But the thing I've been disappointed since the Texas game, and they had a bye this past week, so it'll be interesting how he responds after maybe his poorest showing of the season against Texas, is can he stop turning the ball over and making some of these inconsistent decisions that is probably costing them a lot of money when the draft time comes.
Second straight week, we had Dane Brugler on here last week. Second straight week where you're saying Carson Beck was QB1 for you coming into the season. Dane said the same thing, and now, 4 or 5 in the rankings, we were theorizing how much it's like you go into the season and you're trying to justify being QB1 for a lot of people, right? In an open class, a lot of people are saying, yeah, Carson Beck, he's the next guy. He's leading Georgia. He'll continue to improve. And it does feel like he's pressing or doing something a little different this year as far as taking care of the ball, like you're saying. Third quarterback right now for you, Rick.
I'm going to go with the Mr. Nussmeier from LSU. And why I really liked him is I think he has a very good command of this offense. I think that he is the most poised in the pocket where he'll hang in there. He'll deliver on time, even though he knows he's going to get a shot. I think he is the most polished as far as getting through his reads and progressions. I think he's a better pocket passer than he is when he has to create outside the pocket and buy a second chance. No one's going to have to worry about him as a run threat. I think his accuracy falls off when he has to throw on the move. And this is another quarterback that, and if you watch the first half of the Texas A&M game, I said, I'm not so sure this guy's the best quarterback in the draft. And then I see him throw the 3 interceptions in the second half, and I'm like, what? This is the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, the dumb decisions that he made, rolling to his left, throwing across his body, having the nickel corner undercut a hitch route where he didn't even see him, just, throwing an interception. And that first interception, when he threw across his body, they were winning. It was in the beginning of the third quarter. Just take care of the football. Make the throws that are there. You don't need to play hero ball. When he tries to play hero ball and get outside what he's actually very good at, that's when he makes his mistakes. And he's another one. Even in the South Carolina game, he made a couple of great throws from the pocket, but then he makes a couple of bonehead interceptions. A couple of them were in the red zone that takes points off the offense. And you can't do that at the NFL level. So I think out of all the guys we're talking about, he's probably the most consistent and most poised in the pocket, but he can't create on his own. He's not going to be a run threat, and he needs to play within himself and not think that he is, Jaden Daniels. He's not that type of athlete. So play to your strengths. Stay in the pocket, deliver the ball, get through your progressions, and take care of the football and stop turning the damn ball over.
Nussmeier's games are wild, aren't they? It reminds me of those pictures of Greg Olsen from Christian McCaffrey's wedding, where he's just like you knew Greg was through some stuff that night. By the end of the night, all those pictures. That's like Nussmeier at the end of the game. He's like 23 for 50 and 4 touchdowns and 3 picks. Like he's seen some stuff every single game. It is like a roller coaster ride with him.
Yeah, but it's entertaining. But if you're an evaluator, it's frustrating as hell. But if I'm a fan, yeah.
That's my comp for Nussmeier right now. It's Greg Olsen at Christian McCaffrey's wedding. We're going to stick with that one. Who's QB2 for you right now, Rick?
I'm going with Mr. Sanders from Colorado. And I think, the Nebraska game, first half, he didn't play very well. This kid may be the toughest kid I've ever seen because he takes more shots than any quarterback should ever take in their lifetime. He takes them in one game. I think he got sacked 10 times. I can't remember, was it the Baylor game where they hit him 10 times? But he gets up and keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny. No matter how many times you hit him and knock him out, he pops right back up and let's go. So I love his toughness. I love his accuracy down the field. I think he has enough mobility to get outside the pocket. He's not going to be a huge scramble threat, but he does keep his eyes downfield. Where he needs to improve is that he's always looking for the big shots. He's always looking for the wild type throws, and he has the ability to make those wild type throws. But at times there are guys when he's in the pocket that are underneath, that are wide open, and he's waiting for the guy to go 90 yards down the field so he can show off his arm talent. My biggest concern with him, if I was an NFL team, is can he play in an NFL pocket in rhythm and on time? Because you're not going to be able to hold the ball for 52 seconds. And that game he got sacked 10 times, some of that is on him because he holds the ball so long. But as far as accuracy, throwing on the move, throwing deep balls, he's very good at all that. But can he play in rhythm and on time in an NFL offense?
Yeah, most of the narrative, especially last year with Shedeur, was around, the offensive line is terrible, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, he's inviting pressure. He's holding the ball. I like the way he throws the ball, throws it.
Great release. Yeah. Very catchable ball. Great timing when he gets it out at all levels of the field. He can make every NFL throw possible. It's just you can't play street ball or, as I call, rodeo Joe ball, where you tell the guy to go down to the pylon and pivot and make a corner, or go down to the fire hydrant, and I'll wait. 1001 Mississippi, 1002 Mississippi, 1003 Mississippi, 1000. Okay, now break from the fire hydrant and I'll throw it your way. You have to play in rhythm and on time. And that's going to be a big adjustment for him, in my opinion, at the next level.
I think he can do it, though. I mean, he's got the football acumen, intelligence. I think he can. It's just just do it, right?
Yeah, I love the swagger, too.
Yeah.
I think the toughness, the swagger, everything is there. But that's an adjustment. You see that with Caleb Williams in the first part of the season. You can't scramble backwards. You're not going to outrun these athletes on the defensive side of the ball. You have to stay in the pocket, step up in the pocket. And if the wow throw down the field isn't there, it's okay to take a 10-yard or a 5-yard gain, hitting it to the back, checking out, or to a shallow crossing route. That's actually a good thing. So take advantage of that, because there are some guys open, but he tends a tendency to hold the ball because he wants to see number 12, who we'll talk about, number 5, outrun everybody down the field.
All right. Who is QB1, Rick? Who you got right now?
By default, I will put that. The only one left. I did Cam Ward. And this is another one that's a little bit rodeo Joe, cowboy Joe, and plays a little street ball. But he's probably the best athlete out of this crew in the top 5 that we're talking about that can make some plays with his legs. The reason I put him up there, in this past week against Florida State, I thought that was one of his worst games because he wasn't very accurate this game. Other games, I thought he showed good accuracy, much improved from what he showed when he was at Washington State. He has more than enough arm talent, even on the move, to flick the ball and make all the necessary throws at the next level. He needs to learn how to play a little bit more in rhythm and on-time pocket. Not as bad as Sanders, and he's working. It looks like he's trying to prove a point because he's shorter that he can throw from the pocket. But he does make some boneheaded interceptions as well. Why I put him up there is because I don't think Miami would be undefeated without him at quarterback. And I give a lot of credit if a quarterback is carrying a team. It reminded me back when Matt Ryan came out. I was at a Virginia Tech game in Virginia Tech. There was no other really prospect on that Boston College team, but Matt Ryan brought them back in the rain in a come-from-behind victory. So
Thursday night game?
It was a Thursday night game.
I recall. Yeah.
Yes. And very cold. But great atmosphere at Virginia Tech. I always love to go to night games at Virginia Tech on Thursday nights. But this kid had 2 big road wins, to go out to Cal all the way across the country and be able to come out with a win there. And I know Cal was up and down a little bit, but he made a lot of throws in that second half that got them the victory. And then Louisville, who has some talent on that roster, and to go and have a big victory, 2 victories back-to-back on the road, and his ability to carry this team, that's why, by default, he is the number 1 quarterback at this point of the season.
I hear you, and I hear a lot of other evaluators say the same thing, right? You want to see how players bounce back from adversity. Cam Ward has created a lot of his own adversity, right? Throwback across his body against Cal for a pick 6, did the same thing against Florida in week 1. He's started some fires, right? But he's also done a good job bouncing back and putting them out. Yeah,
no, he somehow comes out a way that he does learn from his mistakes during a game and comes back and makes plays to help them win games. So it's almost like, I don't know if this is the best term. He can overcompensate for the mistakes he may make early to bring them back and to lead him to victory. Because I do think this kid, no matter how big the stage or how much pressure is on in the game, if he does make a mistake, it's kind of like a water off a duck's back. Okay, I screwed up, but let's go. Give me the ball again. I'm going to win this game for you.
So again, the caveat to all of this, we still have a lot of college football to be played. You mentioned earlier all the matchups. I mean, we're talking about Miami. I mean, all of these teams, Miami, Colorado, LSU, Georgia, and Texas. All 5 of them could end up in the playoff, 4 out of 5. We're going to have multiple playoff games for some of these guys, conference championship games. There's still a lot of football to be played. So this is variable week to week, right? Still a lot more that this can change.
Yeah, but last year you were it was pretty consistent, the top 3.
Yeah.
And at this point in the season, you knew that Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and I liked Drake May. Maybe I was in a But those were
I
the
mean, if
three.
any, it was Williams in May early, and then Jaden
Right.
Daniels just had such a good season, he had to be in the conversation.
Yeah, well, he had a really good season the previous year because I wrote him up the previous year and wasn't as good last year, but I knew the talent that he had. So, but this year, I can't say that. And we could be talking 2 weeks from now, and it'd be like the totally different order. I've had a different order almost every week in the season. I've had Milroe up there, and then Milroe has gone to bat crazy as well on some of the things that he's doing, and Miller Moss and some of these other guys. But I really have a tough time saying that if I needed a quarterback this year's draft class, it would almost remind me of the Kenny Pickett year, where you're going to have to take someone else, because I would be very, at this point, scared to say that I'm going to get my franchise quarterback with a number 1 overall pick.
I want to throw a mailbag question out there first before we get into the sleepers really quick. It's not that big of a curveball for you, but you mentioned seeing Matt Ryan in person. I may have asked you on the podcast previously about, as an evaluator, the in-person, watching a player in person versus watching the film. How do you balance? Do you think there's too much bias involved? I know you're there to see other stuff. Is there bias in the results of the game? For instance, if you were at Cal watching Cam Ward make the comeback, if you were there in person, do you have more bias toward that game, right or wrong, than if you just watched the film?
No, the most value I got out of the games is, again, watching them to throw live, because it's different when you see it come out of their hands than you watch it on tape on it. But I love to watch the interaction on the sideline, the pregame warm-up, who's he talking to after they come off on the sideline. I've seen quarterback like Matt Ryan was a true pros pro at Boston College. So I see him come off, talks to the offensive coordinator, picks up the phone, blah, blah, blah. Then I see him go over to the receivers. Then I see him go over to the offensive line portion of the bench, and he's talking to everybody. There was no question that he was the general. He was the leader. And then I've seen some quarterbacks come off that make a mistake, and I'll keep the names of the innocent, throw their helmet, or just go sit and made a very poor decision on an interception, throw his helmet on the sideline, doesn't go talk to any coaches, goes and sits by himself, and then comes back up. I've seen moronic acts during pregame. What's the best way I can put it on TV? Grab, arsing, and not getting ready for the game. Now, most of the kids, like I said, but there are things that you can see at a game live that you can't see when you're just watching the tape.
Love it. All right, let's get to some sleepers. I'm calling them sleepers. You can define this any way you want. It doesn't have to be, this guy's going round 7. It could also just be, hey, guys that you're higher on, guys that popped on tape. Give us a few names to know here as we head into November.
Yeah, I didn't know, because Janko, the producer, and you did not give me any parameters. So sleepers, I thought
make up whatever parameters you want. It's perfect.
Yeah. I kind of looked at some of these late round or Saturday guys that really, have maybe an issue with them, but they're really good football players. And, I've learned this through the years of my evaluation. I can understand a guy may not be fast enough, or a guy may be a little short, but if he pops out to you on tape as a good football player, there's a pretty good chance that's going to translate to the NFL. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be a Pro Bowler, and you may get lucky and get a Pro Bowler, but we had a lot of success with some of these guys, and our philosophy when I was in Minnesota is, and analytics played a big part of it, but just who pops out, who's a good football player that has passion for the game, that plays his rear end off, down in and down out. And it's like you just want to go grab some popcorn because you can't turn this movie off because it's so entertaining. So these were some of the guys that I thought, at least at this point, and I have not seen all the guys yet that are going to get drafted. And there's still probably 175 days left until the 2025 NFL draft, Steve, in case you were worried. You got plenty of time, but it's closing on us fast.
Wait, do you have a countdown in your home office? Do you just Check another day closer to the draft.
I know on Tuesday it was 177 days until the 2025 NFL draft.
You do have a countdown. You have like a clock. Do you have like the hours somewhere too? I love it.
No, I just, some of the things that are bizarre that stick with me, that's the way my head works sometimes.
Nothing wrong.
No,
with
it's
that.
like 177 days. God, I'll never get these guys all done by 177 days.
If I look at 3 players per day, I might get through. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Yeah.
All
so,
right.
but here's a couple. I came up with 5 names that I thought maybe Saturday guys. I don't know if someone inches up into Friday, but at least on some of the teams that I was watching and some of the guys that really popped out, and I call them, my category is just good football player. And these guys are just good football players. So the first guy that popped out was I was watching an edge rusher from Michigan. I think it's Josiah Stewart. Now he's 6'1", maybe 245, 50 pounds. So not a prototypical edge rusher, but this guy comes every down. I mean, whoever that tackle is he's going against, you better bring a lunch pail because it's going to be a long day. And he'll get engulfed some at the point versus the run. But his energy and effort rushing a passer, I looked up his stats. He has 6 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 13 quarterback pressures. And he's going against Big Ten offensive tackles, some of the guys that are going to play in the league. And he just has excellent bursts. He gives great effort. He knows how to work the edges of the blockers, and he can really close to the quarterback. So, the kid that came out of Muhammad Karma, I think, was drafted in the 5th round by Miami last year, reminded me a lot of that type of player. Solomon, I think, out of Troy, was also drafted. These sawed-off short guys somehow find a way to fill out a role on an NFL team, especially if they can get some pressure off the edge as a pass rusher.
Potential designated pass rusher at the next level. And you mentioned Miller Moss a little bit ago. Miller Moss against Michigan, that poor guy had collapsing pockets the entire game. And Josiah Stewart was a huge part of that. He can get after the quarterback.
So my next guy, Steve, if you're interested.
I'm ready.
A long linear receiver out of San Jose State, Nick Nash.
Yep.
This guy has more targets than I've ever seen a receiver get through these first 8 or 9 games. One game he was targeted 27 times. I believe it was the Arizona game, or I can't go back.
Let's look it up here. I'll look
Washington,
it up for you.
Washington State game. He was targeted, I think, 27 times that game in one of the games that I looked at.
Sure was.
17 targets, 10 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. One game. I mean, they throw this kid the ball constantly. He's 6'3". He's probably said it's 195. I think he's about maybe $180, $185. He needs to get stronger. There's no question about that. He's a little bit of a glider. I don't know how fast he is upfield into his routes, but his catching radius really stuck out to me, where this guy extends away from his body, can go up and high point the ball, though he needs a little get stronger in some contested situations. He has some weave and mobility after the catch, but this kid is as tough as it comes because they throw him a lot of inside routes. And the one thing I'd like to see on a receiver, not only their flexibility through their upper and lower body, and you can kind of look at that by the way they adjust. Like guys that are built really tight in their upper have a struggle, like if a throw's behind them, they can't go up and adjust behind to make that catch. This kid can get in and out of his routes, and he has very good hands, and his production is off the charts. Right now, 82 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns through 9 games. And a lot will depend, I think, on what he runs. But this guy looks like he has a chance to maybe be a steal as a Saturday pick.
You weren't kidding. 132 targets through 9 games?
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good dose.
Crazy.
Yeah.
There's something.
So you have an opportunity.
You
have an opportunity to get a good evaluation of the guys getting targeted 132 times so far.
I feel like the teams tell you something too when I remember watching Puka Nacua at BYU thinking they're feeding him the ball. Like they're getting him the ball on shovel passes and all these different, in all these different ways. Like teams tell you how good the player is sometimes and how often they target them, how they use them. So I think that's a good indicator for Nash.
Unless they don't have any other player that's worth a crap.
Of course. There's that too. All right. I see your next name. I got the list ahead of time. I love this. Guy's going to be getting a lot more hype soon. Get going. Let's go.
David Walker from Central Arkansas. Small school. He's been like All-American wherever he's been. I think he transferred from Southern Arkansas. I threw on the Arkansas State game this year. This guy is another sawed-off guy, 6'1". They say he's 260 pounds. But this guy is another one that just physically dominates everybody at this level. His strength, his power, his quickness, his athleticism jump out on tape. So when you're watching these small school kids, they better stick out like a sore thumb. And this kid definitely sticks out like a sore thumb, a sore index finger, a sore big toe. He is pretty dominant at this level. He had 3 sacks at the Arkansas State game. I think he'll end up as a double-digit sack guy. He plays so many snaps. I guess if I had to be critical on one fact is that he does not always chase the ball from the backside on plays away, but he may be trying to catch his breath because of the amount of snaps that he does play. This is a kid that I think will end up in an all-star game, hopefully the East-West game or the Senior Bowl. Small school kids like this that can go to one of these all-star games and line up against guys that, are pretty good, talented players, and he can show out just like he's showing out now. A lot of people will know this kid, his name, before it's said and done. Right now, I don't think anyone knows this kid's name, but if you watch the tape, he was one of the small school kids that really jumped out at me.
Yeah, he looks like I got to try to remember from my notes on this too. I don't know if it was Carl Lawson. He kind of reminded me of body type wise, but that type of ability to get after the QB. Jim Nagy was just tweeting about him. I think he was FCS Player of the Week for the Senior Bowl this past week. So,
oh, was he?
Yeah, I don't know if that's an indicator that he's. I mean, I know they're watching him at the Senior Bowl, and I think you're right. I think he'll get a chance to showcase somewhere at one of the All-Star games this offseason for sure. All right, who else you got?
All right, I'm going to go bias here because I was on a visit to Alabama, so I'm going to go with 2 names that people don't recognize at Alabama that really jumped out on my evaluations. And I can tell you this, I had an opportunity to speak with these kids, and A-plus character from top to bottom. My first kid is Q Robinson. He's always kind of been behind the Dallas Turners of the world and the Will Andersons of the world. From Birmingham, local kid. He's almost 6'5". He's like 240 pounds. At least that's what I'm guessing he's at. Needs to add some strength. But watch him on tape. He's had 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 9 quarterback pressures, and a 6'5" kid that can really bend. And the one thing that absolutely is no concern is his energy and effort he plays with. And even when I was at the Missouri game this past weekend, when he comes off the edge, he is a humming. I mean, he splits double teams. He can bend at the quarterback level. He can chase. I bet you this kid's going to run in the 4.5s. Just my estimate off at least what I've seen on tape so far. And it's hard to not watch this kid. They've got 22 guys that everybody's going to be evaluating. And this kid's probably right now lost in the shuffle because I know when you go into a school and it's like player number 17, I got to, you don't want to lose interest. And I think this kid was one of the biggest surprises after I watched all the Alabama kids and evaluated all the Alabama kids. This kid was one that really jumped out to me as a potential late round. And I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up at one of these all-star games because he's not known, because of his length, because of his speed and athleticism, and because of the way he's rushing the passer. Someone's going to notice this kid. Now, I'll say that with a little bit of caveat. He and Alabama have a very big game coming up after this bye week against LSU, and he's going against 2 pretty good tackles that are probably going to be first-round picks, and Jones and then Campbell. And so you're going to see a true test of what this kid can do against NFL caliber type talent. And this kid, if he shows up in those games, I think people are going to start recognizing his name.
You're describing potential 4.5 speed. Does he have 34-inch plus arms? Like, he looks long.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
His arm, everything. If yeah, he just hasn't played till this year. And
so if he tests well and, measures at 34 plus and all that, you'll hear way more about him, I think, come draft time.
Yeah. I mean, no one really heard a lot about Danielle Hunter, and he didn't have outstanding stats coming out. But, and I give a lot of credit to our defensive line coach, Andre Patterson, who's a D-line coach with the New York Giants right now, is like, just give me a chance to work with this kid. I can teach technique. We can get him stronger. I can't teach his athleticism. I can't teach the energy and effort that this kid plays with. Those things are already checked the box, at least in my opinion. And this kid is nowhere near, I believe, tapped his full potential yet. Love it.
Who's your final name to know here?
Yeah, I stayed down in Alabama, and the CJ Dupree. He was at Louisville.
All you have to do is meet Rick, and you'll be on his sleeper list. As he talks to you in person.
Yeah. I've got a few more schools I've been through that if you meet, I'm going to make you on my sleeper list. Big tight end, doesn't get a lot of targets. When I saw him in person this past weekend, I was floored. He's 6'5", he's almost 270 pounds. Built like you can't build him any better in a factory than what this kid looks like. His upper body, his lower body. He is, to me, one of the most complete Y tight ends coming out in this year's draft. Now, everybody, the flavor of the day in the NFL is the Kincaids of the world, the Kyle Pitts of the world, these great athletes that can create mismatches. But this kid can block at the point. He's very good out in space. He's very good in pass protection. And when he gets his opportunities, he takes advantage of them. He had no drops in anything I charted. He's very good at getting the ball upfield after the catch. He does a great job carrying defensive backs on his back. He gets a lot of yards after contact. Like I said, he runs with power. I think it was the Tennessee game. Watch a Tennessee game, and if you want to see an athletic move, he hurdles over one of their defensive backs coming in low to try to hit him. So he is
I can find it right now.
He is not a household name, but he's one of those kids like the Ottens of the world, the Ruckers of the world that the Jets drafted in the third round. He's one of the most complete tight ends that can do everything well. I don't know if you can say, well, he's going to be an elite receiver, elite mismatch guy, but he's a guy that can play for you on 3 downs and fill out a starting role for a team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just found the play. He gets up.
Yes.
On that hurdle.
6'5", 270.
I'm going to send you a screenshot of that. You can
already
turn it into
it. Yeah, I actually do my homework before I come on the show with you.
Just so you could turn it into a poster, maybe. You put it in the background of The Office or something. That's good. I love it. So those are your 5. We'll call them names to know, day 3 type guys. We'll see where they end up going. Always love hearing different names, from all the evaluators around the league. I'm asking everybody else the same question, though, which is the Travis Hunter question and how you handle that. Where do you think his best fit is? And as an organization, how would you handle that? Maybe a guy that wants to play both ways. You might want to have him play both ways. How do you handle Travis Hunter, and where do you think his NFL future actually is?
I think those are handled during these pre-draft meetings. I think as you go into the combine and get an opportunity to sit down with him, that you already have what you think he is as a team. How's he going to fit for your team? But I can tell you this, there's no way that he can play 165 snaps a game in the NFL and survive. Body will not hold up for preseason, 17 games, postseason. My opinion is he is such a unique athlete. I think he could be very impactful at either corner or at receiver. But if you want a guy that can put points on the board for you, and some of the incredible catches he makes, I've seen him go over DBs. This guy to me is a top flight receiver. And because he's fast, he can make plays and unique catches. He can run after the catch. He can put points on the board for you. I think he could be an excellent returner as well because of his athletic skills with the ball in his hand that he shows as a receiver. At this point, I would probably look at him as a receiver. Now, I know he can play DB. I know he can play man coverage. I don't know if he's going to be the guy that's going to get up there and throw his bag of bones in every pile and run support. But I can understand why he preserves himself at times just because, listen, I got to go back and play another, 250 snaps this game on the offensive side of the ball. But he is the most unique athlete I've seen since Gordy Lockbaum came out, the last two-way player I remember out of Holy Cross.
What year was that, Rick?
In the 90s, I think. It was like when I was a Blesto, when I was just a college scout. Gordy Lockbaum, you don't remember that name?
I don't remember offhand, and that's from Worcester, too, over at Holy Cross, and I don't remember.
I think he was Holy Cross. I do believe I think he was Holy Cross.
I think you're the first person that said receiver first. We're getting a lot of answers that are like, hey, let's play full-time corner and then a 20-snap package at receiver, whatever it might be. I think you're the first one that pushed the receiver first. Do you think, because think about all the decisions you have to make as far as how many players you carry at each position, special teams, team building, roster building. Can he be a guy that picks one position but also provides depth at the other one, and in a pinch you're just flipping them?
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that. And the reason I leaned at receiver more is because I think that this is a pretty deep corner class, what I've seen to date. So there's more depth at corner to me. I don't think the receiver class is the same as it was last year right now. So if you want a playmaking receiver, you're talking about the kid at Arizona, probably is going to be on everybody's radar. There's some other receivers, but I think it's deeper at corner in the first round than it is at receiver this year. So I would take him as a receiver, and then knowing that if I need him in a role on defense, he's more than capable of doing that. I came up with my conclusion because the way I'm looking at the depth at the two positions in the first round.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I had one last question for you. So this is my mailbag question, my own question for you, Rick.
You didn't submit it, but go ahead.
I have submitted this through the Discord channel. You didn't see it. What as a general manager, how much do you know about the draft right now? How much do you know about the players? You're knee deep on the NFL season. You're building that roster. How much do you know about the draft? Do you have any idea how it's going to unfold? Who the players are? Where are you as far as draft prep goes as a general manager right now?
As an analyst, I'm way ahead.
I know that. You don't have to do all the other stuff. It's easy for you now. You get to actually just watch film. That's why I'm asking.
No, I would try to get to 15 schools if I could, to where the A players were. My schedule was in Monday and Tuesday. It's roster and it's post-game review. Wednesday, you're meeting with the pro personnel department. You're starting to kind of look at unrestricted free agency, where the depth is that going to be. And then I used to do, if I can get out Thursday or Friday or Saturday to go out to college, I would do college at the end of the week. And I would try to get a school done a week if I could, maybe two schools. But right now we have the trade deadline coming up. So you're honed in and focused on that. You're honed in and focused on a lot of other areas besides the draft. Best time where I was able to get caught up in the draft was actually during the bye week or on the weekends once the season was over. As you're getting prepped for, our team needs and evaluating your talent, having all those meetings, getting ready for free agency. But the weekends, I would go in every Saturday and Sunday, and that's when I'd really start honing in on, at least because I had grades from all of our scouts by then. So then I knew the guys that I had to look at. And that's when I really tried to catch up, is on the weekends in the off season because we always had February meetings before we went to the combine. So I tried to get at least the top 100 done before those meetings in February, if I could, or coming out of those meetings. And let's say the guys that we're going to bring in for interviews at the combine, I wanted to make sure at least I saw them on tape. And then, you're basically playing catch up all the way up until, the draft time. So 176 days out, Steve, I would say that I was hoping to have maybe 10 schools done by then, or a couple of the top guys.
And so now, just because our listeners need to know, how is your countdown to the draft going? Is this whiteboard and you just erase it and write the next day? Like, what does this look like? Where is your countdown? Where does it live?
Should I just be totally transparent?
Yes.
We do it on our podcast twice a week on how many days.
Okay. It's on the, okay. Perfect.
Yeah. But my only role on the podcast is to say that did you know, Steve, that there are 176 days left until the 2025 NFL draft?
I'm just glad you're pulling your weight on the podcast. So yeah, tell everybody where they can listen. I only got you for one day here talking draft. You're doing this twice a week. Tell everybody where they can listen.
Yeah, it's on CBS. It's called With the First Pick. And we actually do, and some of these guys the sleepers that I came up with, we have a segment on the show where the listeners can actually request reports. What nice. We call, if you give us a 5-star review and you send in a player, we will evaluate that player and give our opinion on that player in the draft. So there are some of the other names I wouldn't mention because I didn't like them, but these are some of the guys. A couple of them are from when I go visit schools, but a couple of them are requests from fans out there to have us evaluate him or the player, and then we go ahead and talk about them on a podcast as well.
That's great. We'll do the same thing. If you guys leave us a 5-star review, we'll have Rick evaluate a player for you, and then I'll report back. I'll report back on it for you. I love that. So go check out With the First Pick and wherever else Rick is, again, over with our friends Pete Prisco, Mike Renner, all these CBS people over there. So appreciate it, Rick. This was fun. Talking draft, We'll have to do it again.
Did I inform you on anything? Did you learn anything?
I learned a lot. My favorite question, I like the process questions. I like to know about your in-game visits and what you're actually doing as a general manager, what your day-to-day looks like, for when I apply for those jobs this year. I just want to know what I'm doing, what I'm getting into.
Okay, so my evaluation and all the film study was absolutely worthless to you.
No, that was pretty good too. That was good. Nick Nash's targets and David Walker, a lot of great stuff. The QB breakdown, so they're going to switch every week. I thought it was fantastic. So that's what, maybe we'll have you again. We'll see. But back-to-back weeks, that was good.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. It's like I heard from nobody from the 33rd team till all of a sudden now, I do one show and now they want me on.
We'll see how many 5-star reviews again. I might be calling you for film evals here since that's your thing. All right, Rick. Appreciate it, man. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I always love being on with you, Steve. It was fun.
Yeah, thank you.